Good evening. I'm Charles Bickford. You may think it strange that I'm standing next to this door, but let me tell you why. As an actor, I've had the opportunity to travel, meet a lot of people, and form a lot of opinions. One opinion I've ended up with is that we Americans are very much alike in lots of ways. We're basically honest, have respect for our fellow men, and have confidence in the world we live in. I mean the everyday world of working, sleeping, and eating. And that's why I'm here, to tell you a story about the men whose job it is to see that we live without fear. The men who wear the badge of authority, which protects the lives of every one of us. Take this cake, for instance. When you buy one like it in a store, or a loaf of bread, you have confidence in the label on the package. Why do you have this trust? It's because of the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, and the men who enforce it. Take this man, for instance. He and his fellow inspectors cover the entire country to enforce this law and protect the lives of every one of us. Watch, listen, and maybe even learn a little about a man like Fred Barnes, Inspector for the Food and Drug Administration. Tonight's Man Behind the Badge. Just 100 miles south of the FDA district in Baltimore is the town of Hunter, Virginia. It's a fair-sized town, and the people are friendly. A man on his lunch hour looks in a store window at a display of gifts. A housewife clears away the lunch dishes before doing her shopping. A newsboy sells his papers at his usual corner.
Just a little slower, Dr. Taylor. I'd like to get the whole story.
I'm sorry, Inspector Barnes. I've been at the hospital in Hunter all night. It took me an hour and a half to drive here. I haven't eaten since... Oh, by the way, you did get the sample, didn't you?
It's in the lab for analysis.
I have 4 patients in the hospital, Inspector. 3 of them on the critical list. And Dr. York, 2 of his patients are also on the critical list.
What makes you think it's the cake?
Well, I went over everything they ate for the past 2 days. I compared notes with Dr. York. Every one of the patients had eaten fruitcake. Now, if it isn't the fruitcake, I don't know what it is. That's why I rushed it up to you. I haven't the proper facilities for a complete test.
And you say they all bought them from a...
Mrs. Eldred.
Yes, Mrs. Eldred, 149 River Street.
Oh, they were dropping like flies in the street, Inspector. One man at the wheel of his car. A newsboy selling newspapers.
Excuse me, I'll call the lab and see what's holding up that report. Hello, this is Barnes. What's holding up the report on that cake? Right. They'll be through in about 5 minutes.
Oh, good.
Would you like to go to the lab and wait with me?
Yes, very much.
The symptoms were the same in all the patients, huh?
Exactly.
Anyone from the outlying districts affected?
No, so far it's just the people from town. But I don't know what's happened in the hospital since I left.
If the poison's not in this cake, they're liable to be coming for days. We've got to find the source of the arsenic.
For 3 hours, the laboratory technician had been following careful, foolproof steps required by the Marsh test, the laboratory method of detecting arsenic. The next to the final step of the test was now producing invisible fumes. If arsenic was in the flask, it would now be rising through the tube. The flame of the Bunsen burner would react to the arsenic by turning a livid, luminous color. The next few seconds held the answer. For positive evidence, it would now be necessary to apply another procedure. The fumes would produce a dark coloration on a white dish, a coloration known as the arsenic mirror. This was the moment of decision, the moment that would tell if the source of the killer had been found.
Found it. No doubt about it, the poison's in this homemade cake.
Thank heaven for that. At least we know the whole town won't be affected now.
I'm not so sure.
What do you mean?
We've only tested the one cake you brought in.
Well, that's enough, isn't it? You found it was responsible.
Yes, but this test shows enough arsenic to kill a regiment. And now we only have one thing left to find out. How many cakes were there?
Inspector Barnes and one of his assistants, Ed Wheeler, drove immediately to Hunter, Virginia. They drove to 149 River Street. Mrs. Eldred wasn't home. They questioned her 11-year-old daughter.
You don't know when your mother will be home?
No.
Your mother bakes cakes for people, doesn't she?
Yes, sir. Do you want to buy one?
Oh, no, thanks. What's your name, honey?
My name is Donna. I'm watching my little brother. He's taking his nap.
Honey, who does your mommy bake cakes for?
Oh, lots of people. She writes their names down.
Do you know where she keeps the list?
That's my little brother. He cries a lot. He's 3 and he sucks his thumb. He can cry at the same time.
Donna, look, do you know where your mother keeps the list?
In a box up there. I'm not allowed to touch it.
Here's a break. She's got everything listed. File cards.
Are there any dates on them?
Yeah.
Good. See if this card marked July 7th.
Yeah, it's the last one. Marked fruit and nut cakes.
Well, here, I have a list of the doctor's patients. See if there's a Cooley.
Check.
Franklin.
Yeah.
Pulaski.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer.
Okay.
York.
New York.
Oh, no, that's the name of the other doctor. His patients are Troy and Yates.
Yeah, both of them.
6 names.
According to this card, she sold 9 cakes.
Well, who are the others?
Mrs. Olson at 22 Park Road. J. Dundee, 211 Elm Street.
What about the 9th?
Just a check after a marked salesman.
Let's see that. Donna, look, honey. Do you know what that means, salesman?
It's a person who sells something, I think.
No, I mean, do you know who it is?
No. Lots of salesmen come to our door.
Honey, when is your mommy going to be home?
I don't know.
Well, she'll be home to fix dinner, won't she?
I don't think so.
Why not, Donna?
Because she's in the hospital.
Do you know what hospital?
No.
Inspector Barnes continued to question the girl and finally found out the name of the hospital. Wheeler called the 2 people who had bought cakes and had not been reported as ill. Neither family had eaten the cake yet and was warned not to touch it. As soon as the calls were finished, the 2 men got into their car and went to the hospital.
Doctor, I've got to talk to her.
Well, you can see for yourself, Inspector. She's in a coma.
When do you think she'll come out of it?
Oh, it's hard to say.
Did she do any talking at any time?
Well, the usual delirious ravings.
Maybe we can make some sense out of it.
Well, it was disjointed. Something about somebody named Donna, I think. A baby.
Yeah, Donna's her daughter. She was watching the baby.
We don't pay much attention to what they say.
She say anything about a salesman?
No.
Mention any names?
No. We pumped her out, found pieces of undigested cake loaded with arsenic. You think somebody tried to kill her?
She must have baked 10 cakes and eaten one herself.
Suicide?
No, there's 6 other cases in town. We caught 2 other families before they ate any of it.
I see. Well, this is a small private hospital. She's the only patient with arsenic poisoning. It was an emergency call.
She sold one of her cakes to a salesman. We don't know who he is or where he is. All we know is that he bought one.
If he ate the whole thing, you better check with the city morgue.
Well, we're hoping that he didn't eat it. We're hoping we can catch him before he does.
Not good.
Anything you can give her to bring her to?
Oh, no, not in her condition.
Doctor, you've got to do something. There's a man walking around this town with a package of dynamite under his arm.
A half a dozen people could be eating that cake right now.
I'm doing all I can.
I understand, Doctor, but we've got a problem, too. I've got some questions that have to be answered, and she's the only one who can answer them.
I know.
I've got to find out who the salesman was, and also I've got to find out where she bought the flour.
If the arsenic was in the flour, Doctor, this thing could spread over the entire city.
Don't you see how important it is?
Sure.
If you could bring her out of it for just 2 or 3 minutes, long enough for me to ask her a couple of questions. All I want to do is ask her 2 questions, Doctor.
She may not be able to give you the answers to those questions.
Why not?
In an hour, she may be dead.
Inspector Barnes called the local police. He requested their help in checking every grocery store and every wholesaler in the district to pick up all samples of flour sold. He called his home office, and a chemist flew down from district headquarters to test the samples, while he and his assistant went back to the Eldred home and searched for signs of arsenic in and around the premises.
My daddy is with my mommy. Will she be all right?
I hope so, Donna.
I made dinner for me and my brother. We had hot dogs.
Donna, where does your mother keep her flour?
In the closet. It's in the big jar on the floor right there.
I don't want you to touch that, understand?
Yes, sir.
Found this box of insecticide out in the garage.
No, I just couldn't walk into the kitchen.
Hello. No, this is Wheeler. It's the boys who were working on the samples the police picked up. Okay. We'll call you before we leave here. They haven't finished their analysis yet.
I found the flour she used. She probably threw away the original container.
I promised I'd clean up everything. Can I do the dishes?
Sure, go ahead, honey.
I have to put everything back where it belongs. Hang up my clothes, too.
I only hope we find the arsenic in the house. She could have bought the flour any place.
Shall I look in the cellar?
No, let's cover this kitchen first.
All right. Well, only 2 dishes?
There was only me and my brother.
Donna, does your mommy always put her flour in that closet?
Ever since I can remember.
She never stores it anyplace else, huh?
No, she buys big bags. The boy who delivers it, he goes to my school. He puts it right into the closet.
Mm-hmm. Let's keep looking.
Should be getting a call from the hospital soon.
Yeah.
Donna.
Why did you place that up there?
I promised I'd put everything back where it belonged, and that's where my mommy keeps it.
See what happens? Every time that door is open and closed, that's poison sifts down into the flour. Look, get a hold of the police right away. Tell them to quit the search. We found what we want.
All right.
Donna, come here. Look, honey.
Wheeler immediately called the police and had them stop their search of the grocers. The chemist returned to district headquarters. The source of the arsenic was found, but Inspector Barnes still had to find one cake. Still had to find one man, one special man, before he got hungry.
I called as soon as she came out of the coma.
We got here as fast as we could, Doctor.
What's her condition?
As well as can be expected.
What does that mean?
She'll live.
Can she talk?
Can't guarantee it. Or how lucid she'll be.
Well, we're down to one question, Doctor. We know how the arsenic got in the cake.
Yeah, it was in her kitchen.
Mrs. Eldred.
May I talk to her, Doctor?
You better make it fast.
Mrs. Eldred, on July the 7th, you sold one of your cakes to a salesman. What was his name?
I don't know.
Does he live in your neighborhood?
No.
What was he selling?
Pots or candy or something.
What did he look like?
I can't remember.
Try and remember.
I can't. Doctor.
I'm right here, Mrs. Eldred.
Try, please. It's very important, Mrs. Eldred.
He had black hair or brown. He was a little man. I think he was a little man.
Go on.
I don't think she'll be able to tell you anything else. At least you've got some idea of the man you're looking for.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, she said he was a little man.
By the way, Doctor, how tall would you say your patient was?
Oh, quite tall for a woman. 5'11", maybe even 6 feet.
Well, then tell me, Doctor, in her eyes, how big is a little man?
Inspector Barnes put in a call to the district chief, and the latter detailed 3 additional inspectors to Hunter, Virginia. Together with his assistant, they all began a house-to-house search of the entire area. They worked until midnight. They started again at 5 in the morning. Worked all afternoon. They were running out of time looking for a salesman. He sold kitchenware, or maybe it was candy. He had black, or maybe it was brown hair. And maybe he was a little man. How little, they didn't know.
No, I don't remember anyone like that.
He probably called on you the day before yesterday, or even Monday.
But I never bought anything. I mean, salesmen are always knocking on the door.
Well, thanks just the same, Mrs. Sandburn. If you do think of anything, I'd appreciate it if you'd call us at this number.
Well, I could ask my mother. You see, I'm out a great deal of the time, but she lives here.
We'd appreciate it.
All right, just a minute.
A couple of more blocks and we'll cover the entire area.
I sure hope one of the other men have come up with something.
Suppose he's one of those itinerant salesmen, traveling with a car and a trailer.
All we need is just a lead.
All right, I'll tell him, Mom. My mother said she bought this on Tuesday morning.
Does she know the man?
No, she said he never called before. You see, this is her house. My husband and I are only living here temporarily.
Did he leave a card?
No.
Hayes Wholesale Kitchenware. Do you recognize the name?
Hayes? Oh, I don't think so.
Do you have a telephone directory, a telephone that we may use?
Of course. It's right here in the hallway. Here you are.
Thank you.
This man, did he do something? I mean, steal something?
No, ma'am.
He didn't kill anybody, did he?
We're trying to save his life.
Here, I've got it.
Good.
7, 5, 3, 7.
What's wrong with him?
A woman sold him a cake with some arsenic in it. We're trying to get to him before he eats it.
Why, who on earth would do a thing like that?
It was an accident.
Oh, I think it's unforgivable. It's just a careless woman.
She's paying for it, ma'am.
2 numbers were listed for the Hayes Wholesale Kitchenware Company. Nobody answered at either one. A quick check of the phone book showed 3 listings under the name of Hayes. The first was an attorney. The second owned the Hayes Wholesale Kitchenware Company. No, he didn't know the salesman in question. The description didn't ring a bell. He didn't keep any records at home, but the information would be filed at his office. He agreed to meet them there in half an hour. Inspector Barnes and his assistant left immediately and arrived in 23 minutes.
I've got about 25 salesmen working for me. Big turnover in door-to-door salesmen.
Yes, I imagine there is.
You said Monday or Tuesday of this week.
The woman said they call it the Park Hill section of town.
Oh, so that'd be George Ferguson. Only been with me a month.
Got the address?
Lives at 805 Chatham.
What about a phone?
No phone. Only been with me a month. That's the reason I didn't recognize the description.
I see. May we use this telephone?
Yes, of course.
Wheeler, get a hold of the operator and have her give you the phone numbers of everyone on that street and keep ringing until you find someone. The first person you find, have them alert the Fergusons. I'll drive over.
Anything I can do?
Yeah, just pray.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sarah. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, darling.
Not much of a present, is it?
I think it's wonderful.
Didn't even buy it. Got it in trade for an 89-cent pot.
Oh, what difference does that make, darling?
Busted Spring. What a place to celebrate in. Remember the old days?
It isn't the place, it's the person.
Thanks, dear.
Oh, honey. You're going to do just fine in your new job as a salesman. I know you will.
I had plans, dreams. Today's your birthday, and I got nothing.
Things will be better. We'll have everything you ever dreamed of.
I'm running out of dreams, Sarah.
George, you can't do that. Tell you what.
What?
Let's turn on the radio and pretend we're at the Ritz like we used to.
You're wonderful, hon.
Mm-hmm. See how lucky you are.
Harry's phone's ringing.
They're visiting overnight in Washington.
Maybe I better go up and answer it for him. Might be important.
Oh, honey, you'll just get there and it'll stop ringing.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. Well, shall we dine?
Oh, thank you. It's kind of big for just two of us.
Yeah, but that kind of cake will keep for a week.
Yeah. George.
Hmm?
I couldn't enjoy this cake without taking some to poor Mrs. Wilson next door. All right?
Sure, sure.
All right.
Here.
I'll go get some paper and wrap it. She'll love it.
Yeah.
And don't you touch that till I get there.
Eyes in the back of her head.
Mr. Ferguson?
That's right.
My name is Barnes. I work for the Food and Drug Administration.
Oh?
Do you work for a Mr. Hayes?
Oh, yes. I started about...
Well, a couple of days ago, you... The cake. Who ate it?
No, wait a minute. What's this all about? What's the idea of coming into my home asking questions? I haven't done anything.
The cake.
Well, what about it? I didn't steal it.
What's the matter, George? Who's this
I don't
man?
know. He came rushing in here and the...
Excuse me.
No, you playing some sort of game or something, mister?
You might call it that. Sit down and I'll tell you all about it. You see, there were 10 little Indians, and all we could find were 9.
In our time, when islands are being blown sky high, the story of one little man on a cake may not get big headlines, but human life still has a price. And to the inspectors and field agents of the Food and Drug Administration, that price is high. Whether it's a state, a town, or one individual life in jeopardy, that life must be protected. And it is protected. And so the milk we feed our children and the food we place on our tables is under constant surveillance and in the hands of men dedicated to protect the lives of every one of us. Now, this is Charles Bickford inviting you to be with us next week, when once again you'll see another authentic story of one whose duty it is to serve. A public servant dedicated to you, and whom you will meet as the man behind the badge.